Hey, it's Michael with the Y, and you're listening to My Reality Recap. Today we're going to talk about the immunity dance-off on Dancing with the Stars, how the merge shook up the game on Survivor, who was crowned the winner of Project Runway, and which model was left in the dark on America's Next Top Model. I hope you're ready for this, so put your glasses on and get ready to sway with me. I'm flying solo for this episode this week, and we had a great week in the reality TV world, and so I'm so excited to recap all of it for you. So let's start with what comes on Monday nights, and that is Dancing with the Stars. This week they had the immunity dance-off, and how that works is the final 7 compete in round 1, and whichever team gets the highest score wins immunity in a safe from elimination. And then in the second round, the remaining 6 couples compete against each other in a dance-off, and the judges in America picks as to who is the winner, and they get some extra points added onto their scores. So for the first round, I want to talk about Carlos and Whitney. Carlos is the sexy Latino, and he had the salsa, and he has never danced the salsa before. And he got all shirtless and was all sexy, and he had some crazy lifts and good dance moves, and it was really good. Like, even without looking at him, like, sexual wise, he's a good dancer and he brought it, and I thought it was a really good dance, and they ended up earning a 27 out of 30 stars. Andy Grammer and his partner Allison had a good story before they danced, and it was really pretty to watch, but their technique suffered a lot and they didn't do the dance technically right, and so they ended up getting a 22 out of 30, and he was a front runner the last couple of weeks with getting a perfect score, and I believe last week he got a 29 out of 30. He almost got one last week. Nick Carter and his partner Sharna did a dance, and it was his best dance ever. It was so good. They were spot on. He actually got a perfect score, his first 30 out of 30 for the season. And then after they got their score, they had a gender reveal because Nick Carter's wife is pregnant. And so Nick Carter is having a little Backstreet Boy. Oh, it's so cute and kind of funny how it's a little Backstreet Boy. Bindi and Derek got a 28 out of 30, and this dance was so good. There was so much energy and so much happiness, and okay, I'm kind of Team Bindi now because she's actually kind of killing it, and now that I know that she's this perfect girl, I'm all for it. I just hate that Derek always gets these good people though. But they had a really good dance, 28 out of 30, and so after round 1, the team that won immunity and the 3 extra points was Nick Carter and Sharna because they had a perfect score. So moving into the second round is the dance-off. And so how this works is the remaining 6 couples, whoever got the second highest score, gets to pick who they want to compete against. Then whoever they pick to compete against them gets to pick the style of dance. So Bindi got the second highest score from the judges, and she picked to go against Carlos, and then they picked to dance the jive. So they would go at it on the dance floor right next to each other, the same song in front of the judges, and the judges ended up picking Carlos as the winner, but America voted for Bindi, but because it was a 3-1 vote, the judges' scores meant that Carlos won that round. The other pairings were Tamar versus Alexa, and Alexa ended up beating Tamar, and then the last matchup was Andy Grammer versus Alec, and Andy won by a unanimous vote. So in the end, the eliminated contestant this week was Andy Grammer and his partner Allison. So they had a bad week this week, but last week they did pretty good. So that means they didn't get lots of votes from the public. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see how it all shakes up because Alec is the weakest one in the competition right now, but he has a big following from everybody because he has that whole hero persona going on because he saved the people from that train. And we still have Alexa and Carlos, the married couple, in there. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all unfolds in the upcoming weeks. But I'm just going to miss seeing Allison dance because she's my favorite professional. Hopefully she's not going to be too pregnant so she can keep dancing during the commercial breaks so I can see her dance moves a little bit. So there's been a little drama off the dance floor for Bindi Irwin. She is 17, and in order to get the money for the show, she has to have both parents sign a legal document for her. Her mom signed it, but her dad, the crocodile hunter, passed away in 2006, and the judge is ordering that they prove that he is dead so that way she can get her money and the contract be workable. I don't know what the right word is, but I'm just this is so interesting because everybody knows he's dead, so now they have to prove it so she can get her money. But it came out how much she's made so far. So for dancing 8 weeks and Dancing with the Stars, Bindi Irwin has earned $230,000. That is a good paycheck for just dancing on TV for 8 weeks. Sign me up. I'll take that. On Survivor this week, we had the merge, and they merged at 13, which I'm pretty sure they've never did before. They've merged, I think, at 12 once, but they merged at 13, a really big number, and it caused some craziness. So once the tribes got together, there was a little division between the two alliances, and Spencer and Joe ended up being the middle swing votes, and they're both strong men, and it's usually not that way. They usually target the strong men right at this point. And there were two big fights that happened once the tribes merged. It was between Cass and Tasha, and they have some bad blood from Survivor Cargayan and Brain, Beauty, and Brawn when Cass screwed over Tasha. And Cass has been playing this nice girl this time, not Chaos Cass. She's been communicating with everybody and making friendships with these people, trying to give her second chance, like, a meaning. Like, she's playing it differently because that's what you have to do for your second chance, and that's the theme of the season. But Tasha is just not having any of it. She is sticking true to, I don't like Cass, I don't trust her, and they had a big falling out when Cass called her out on it, so we saw a little Chaos Cass come into play. And then the other argument that we saw was between Sierra and Savage, and they have bad blood from the previous vote when they blindsided Woo, because Savage wanted everybody to vote for Sierra, but Sierra didn't feel comfortable with that, so Sierra got everybody to vote out Woo, which was Savage's best friend, and so they had a fight, and it just caused some more drama. At the immunity challenge, they had to stand on a balance beam, and they also had to balance a ball on a little pedestal, and every 10 minutes they had to move down on the balance beam that was at an angle, and also move their hand down on the pole that was balancing the ball. And so it's a very difficult immunity challenge because you have to balance the ball and yourself on this small little plank. And so in the end, it came down to Joe and Spencer, the two swing votes, and Joe ended up pulling out the immunity. They get back to camp, and Savage really wants to get Sierra out because he does not trust her. He is so against Sierra because they had that fight, but everybody else is more worried about Cass because they know that she can cause some chaos later on in the game. And it just ended up being that everybody except Cass's little alliance of Cass, Sierra, Abby, and Kelly Wentworth were on the outs, and so the other 9 people were going to split the vote 5-4 between Cass and Sierra just in case one of them had the hidden immunity idol. So with there being a 5-4 split between Cass and Sierra, the other 4 are like, we just need one more person and to vote with us, and then we can take advantage of the game and get out Tasha. And so they tried to get Spencer because last week Cass saved Spencer, but when they got to Tribal Council, they weren't able to make anything happen, and Cass was voted out of the game, and my heart was just broken for her because she was doing such a good job this season. She was playing totally different, but her past came back to haunt her, and everybody was just scared to work with her. Now, what I thought was interesting is my friend Ricard from Instagram, he went to a viewing party with Kelly Wentworth, and Kelly actually voted out Cass. And I was very confused as to why she did that, because I was like, they could have had 4 votes to go straight to Tasha, and hopefully maybe one person could have flipped. But what Ricard told me that Kelly said is that Kelly had a conversation with Cass, and Cass told her to either vote for Sierra or herself because it would hurt her game in the long run if Kelly ended up voting out Tasha. And then, so that's what she did. So thanks for the insight on this, Ricard, and spilling the secrets that Kelly did with you. But I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen on Survivor. And they made a comment that the alliance to get out Cass was just for that episode. Like, they felt like she was bad blood and they needed to get rid of her. So next week, there's probably going to be some more craziness that's going to happen. And I am so excited to see it all unfold. So this is the part of the podcast where I need to take a moment to talk about my sponsor. This week, it's provided by White with Style. It's an awesome teeth whitening company that has an FDA-approved technique to whiten your teeth with a fancy LED light. So if you like me and you drink a ton of coffee, this little gem will help you keep your teeth looking pretty for all the boys and girls out there. And because White with Style is just amazing, they're offering all of my podcast listeners a special offer on your first starter kit. The Sparkle White Professional Teeth Whitening Kit is originally $269.99, but all of you beautiful people get it for the price of just $28. Visit www.whitewithstyle.com and enter the code Michael with a Y at the checkout to get your discount. Once again, that's www.whitewithstyle.com, and the code is Michael with a Y. And now, speaking of smiling, one of the designers on Project Runway this week is smiling so big because they were just crowned the winner. So last week we left off with the judges' critiques, and Candace and Edmund got awful reviews from the judges, while Kelly and Ashley did pretty well, so they're feeling pretty confident. And so they had 2 more days to work on their designs. They go backstage to New York Fashion Week, and it is just madness. And I am loving all this because you get to see the behind the scenes of the styling, all the hair, makeup, everybody getting their clothes on their models. Ashley broke a zipper on one of her models, and it is just mayhem. And it really made me miss going to New York Fashion Week and that whole experience that I had there. And I really feel like everybody, at least if you're interested in fashion, you should go to New York Fashion Week at least one point in your life because it's just an incredible experience. The runway shows only last like 2-3 minutes, but still, just the whole experience and being around all these clothes and the people, it's so good. So if you love fashion, try to go to New York Fashion Week. You won't regret it. When the designers came out with their clothes, Kelly was the first one. She bedazzled and glittered the shit out of everything. It was so fun and so different. Her theme was Studio 54 with current streetwear. And her models had on fanny packs. Their shoes were full of glitter. They had bedazzled headphones. They had sunglasses from the 70s, and everything was spot on. Everything was styled perfectly. And let me just say, if I was a girl, I would totally be wearing pieces from this collection. And so, Kelly, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to make some menswear stuff for me, please holler at your boy Michael with a Y because I would totally rock it for you. And I actually couldn't pick a favorite out of her collection because I loved so many of them. They just had so much different textures and techniques that she made. Like, she made different prints with, like, zippers and piping. So good. You guys need to go onto, like, YouTube and Google her collection because it's that good. Edmund's collection was called Anna's Rose, and it was all about love, and he definitely brought the sexy back for his dresses. But I feel like a lot of them we have seen before, like some of the styles, I was like, you could probably see that at Sears or Kohl's. Ooh. And he had some good conversation starters that were walking on the runway, but there wasn't like a big wow moment that was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. I actually had a wow, that dress is ugly. When one of his models came down the runway in this big white ruffle dress. He had lots of ruffles going on throughout his collection, but this dress looked like toilet paper draped over a model walking on the runway. It was not flattering. I wouldn't want to wear it. But I do want to point out that the first model that came down the runway for his collection was Amina from Cycle 12 of America's Next Top Model, and she got 3rd place that season. I saw her and I was like, hold the phone. I know that girl. And she just slayed that runway, so it was nice to see somebody else from another show working the runway. Candace did an Asian Diffused inspired collection. If you know what Candace looks like, she wears black, she wears pale makeup, she has thick black eyebrows, she's very gothic and emo looking, and so you just think of like sexy and dark and bondage and mysterious stuff. But her collection, it was like almost there, and it was actually really boring to watch. And it made me really sad for her because I felt like she choked. She was doing so good this season. Then she got to go and present her collection for Fashion Week, and she just didn't bring her A game. And I don't even have a favorite to talk about because I don't like any of them. Sorry, Candace. Ashley was inspired by Mexico City in the 1950s, and this was the first ever plus-size collection to be shown on Project Runway, but I also feel like it was the very first plus-size collection to be showed at New York Fashion Week because it got so much attention for the show. And her models were gorgeous plus-size women, but a couple of them did not know how to walk, but they all looked beautiful. Her collection had lots of lace that she all dyed herself, and they all had flower headpieces, which was the big issue the judges said last week. Was like, don't put the flowers on every model, but she did, and I actually was so focused on the clothes that I forgot to think about the headpieces till I was doing this review, and I was like, oh my gosh, she put them on every model, and it didn't even bother me. But her pieces were so good. There was only one outfit that I didn't like of hers, and it was her ending showstopper piece. It was this big old dress, and it had lots of flower embellishments glued on the bottom of it. I didn't care for that one at all, but I loved everything else. So after the runway was done, they deliberated with the judges, and it basically came down between Kelly and Ashley, which is kind of how I predicted it would happen. And so the winner of Project Runway is Ashley. And I mean, she had a good edit this season, so I kind of figured she would end up winning, but I gotta give props to my co-host from last week, Mr. Mark with a C, the designer Mark David, and he said that Ashley would win from the very beginning, and he did pick her again last week. I mean, I picked Kelly, and I feel like Kelly kind of should have won, but good job to Mark, and good job and congratulations to Ashley. But from a reality TV perspective, I just need to point something out. In Cycle 10 of America's Next Top Model, Whitney Thompson was the first ever plus-size model to win, and she made it to the finals, and she was up against Anya, and Anya was technically a better model than Whitney was, but I feel like because Whitney had the brand of being a plus size, full figured model, top model would be able to use that as a branding thing and make a better name for themselves. And now on Project Runway, this is the first time that they had a plus size designer make it to the finale, and she just happened to win. And it's going to give them a lot of great PR for the show. So it's just interesting to see that each time a plus size has made it to the finals, they just happen to win when they're not necessarily the best designer or model on the show. So it just goes to show that no matter what you do, you just gotta be passionate and know who you are, what your brand is, and stick to it if you're gonna be on a reality show. And you just gotta love yourself, because at the end of the day, you are who you are, as Kesha says. On America's Next Top Model this week, it's down to the final 5 ever on the show because it's ending. And so the challenge this week was a fierce entrepreneurs, and that is because models aren't always going to have their looks for the rest of their life, so they have to be able to brand and market something. And so it's kind of set up like a Shark Tank challenge. And so each of the designers had to create a product that they could be able to sell. Mikey made Tox, which was a line of tank tops and socks combined, and it was kind of like a surfer beach vibe. Devin did Emotions perfume, and it didn't make any sense at all. None of the judges were buying it. Lacey made a book about small town girl who is surviving in the real world, and she mentioned that she's saving herself for marriage, which we all knew she was a virgin, but last week on my podcast we were kind of like, she's probably had sex by now, but no, she's saving herself for marriage. She's a little good girl. Niall wanted to make an app called Sign That because he's deaf, and everybody always is like, how do you sign this? And so he thought of an app that he could make to help everybody learn different sign language. And Mame did the Goddess Tribe jewelry, which she was wanting to make a jewelry line that could help women make money and they could sell it kind of like how Tyra does her beauty makeup. But she choked in front of the judges. She was so nervous, she couldn't put a sentence together. And so in the end, they ended up picking Mikey as the winner. And let me just tell you, Mikey is coming for this title so full force, and it's making me so nervous for Lacey and Niall. As soon as the challenge is done, Tyra's like, "You're going camping!" So the contestants packed their bags and they were going camping for their photo shoot. They're sitting at a campfire with Yutsai, and he's telling them that they are going to be posing in the woods completely in darkness. So they are standing on this pedestal, and they have some cool fabric, and they have extra pieces of fabric that are flowing around them in the wind. It's very True Blood, very Vampire Diaries-esque, creepy teen movie kind of style photos, but taken in a high fashion way. And so they have to stand on this little pedestal, and they have one flash every 3 seconds. So they have to stay in the small spot, wait every 3 seconds for a photo, and then it takes their picture. And Lacey got some really harsh feedback. She didn't really move around a lot. Devin didn't change up anything he did. Mikey, of course, is bringing his A game, and so he like pow, pow, pow did everything. Mame did a great job. She just brought it. And Niall is deaf, so he, one, can't hear the countdown for the flash, and two, now he can't see, which is one of his other senses, and so he was actually struggling hardcore, and it was hard to see. So Yutsai was actually banging on the box that they were standing on so he could get the countdown right, the 1, 2, 3 flash. And so he's trying to help him as best he could, but Niall was just missing the mark, and it made me so nervous. So once the photo shoot was done, they got to go to the camping ground, and Mikey has just been so horny that he wanted to cuddle with Mame, and Lacey and Niall decided to cuddle together, and I want those two to get married and have babies. If I can't have Niall, Lacey better have him. And then Devin was just left by himself watching everybody cuddle with each other. So once they got to panel and they reviewed the pictures for the week, Lacey did like a tango flamingo pose, and it was so fierce. Mame looked kind of like Maleficent, but it was also kind of Halloween catalog-y. And the picture that they actually used was her test shot, because when you're at a photo shoot, the photographers usually test the lighting, and it just proves that no matter when the camera's up in front of you, you're always posing for that picture. Niall's picture was very Elvis Vampire, as Kelly said, but I just thought he looked like Adam Lambert. Mikey was very fierce. It was very Eric Northman from True Blood, so sexy. And Devin's was very teenage movie, and I didn't like it at all. So best photo this week went to Mikey, and the bottom two was Devin and Niall, his first time being in the bottom two. And so in the end, Devin was eliminated. And let me just say, it is about time, because Devin has been overstaying his welcome for a long time, I feel, and he was just on the show for some extra drama. But now that it's down to the final four, it's going to be very interesting, because all of these people are really strong, and I just really hope that Niall and Lacey are going to be able to make it to the finals. But we'll see, because Mikey is playing really hard, and he wants this. If only he was just a little more likable, I could go for him, but he's not. Ugh. Well, I want to thank all of you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like what you heard today, please click that subscribe button and give this podcast a 5-star rating. That'll make me feel really good inside. And I want to keep the conversation going with all of you. Tweet me at Michael with a Y or hashtag MYRR to let me know all of your thoughts and feelings about the shows we talked about today, or which ones you want me to talk about in the future. And please do, with Face Off and Project Runway done for the season, I really want to know what shows you guys want me to recap in this podcast. You can also keep up with me on social media at all times. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Michael with a Y, and that is spelled exactly as it is on here. Don't forget to smile, and remember, glasses are sexy.